All right, let's move on to your next pick, your next player to team fit that you really loved.
Okay, so I realized I went out of order here, so I'm going to pop back up a little bit further into the top 10. I like the fit of J.J. McCarthy going to the Minnesota Vikings. I really do. I think that this is one that I continually go back to, and it's not just because it's easy in mock drafts, right? It's not just because Minnesota trades for Houston's number 23 overall pick, so now they have 11, they have 23. They basically made it so they are going to be able to outbid the Broncos and the Raiders that are sitting right next to them. And they have now even put themselves into the conversation of, if the New York Giants at number 6 are a team that wanted to move up, pre-Vikings-Texans trade, I think the Giants held all the power, if they wanted to say to Arizona at number 4, the Chargers at number 5, we will give you the best trade because all you have to do is move back a couple of spots. We can move up and we'll go take a quarterback if that's something the Giants wanted to do. But now, with the Vikings having 2 first-round picks, all of a sudden, the Giants pick at number 6 is still advantageous because you're not moving back that far, especially if you're one of these teams that really wants a receiver. You could still guarantee yourself Odunze or Malik Neighbors, we would assume. But 2 first-round picks this year, it's a big deal. This is a good draft class. And I don't think, when people talk about the 2 first-round picks this year, I don't think they emphasize enough the point where this current draft class is really good. Mm-hmm. And not only are picks in the current class normally better anyways, because you never know what's going to happen a year from now, 2 years from now, when you're trading first round picks from 2025 and 2026. It's a good class this year, and it doesn't look as good of a class next year when you kind of look out to things. Now that's a way early thought, but it just doesn't feel like the group next year is getting as much hype as this year. So 2 first round picks this year means a lot, and I think that Minnesota is genuinely in these conversations no matter what for one of these teams at 4 or 5 that might want to trade back. I have the Vikings trading up to number 5, trading with the Los Angeles Chargers, that 11 and 23 overall pick to go up and get McCarthy. And I like the situation a lot because going into the year, when I did summer scouting, I really did not like McCarthy's 2022. I thought he was really raw from the quarterback position. I thought his pocket presence needed a lot of work. I thought he was late to go through his progressions. The accuracy wasn't exactly there. He wasn't great at feeling pressure. He just didn't have that sixth sense of playing the quarterback position. This past year, all of that stuff got better. And he's got good fundamentals. He's got good arm strength. He was even better on third down. He was great over the middle. Obviously, Michigan has an incredibly successful season. No, he wasn't stuffing the stat sheet, but he had a lot of really great traits that you love to invest in. I love the idea of the Vikings drafting him because they already have Sam Darnold, right? And it's a situation where they don't have to throw McCarthy out there right away. Because if you threw McCarthy out there in week 1, right, and you think that's got to be in the cards with a top 5 overall pick at quarterback, right? You probably think you got to go out there and start week 1 because it happens a lot nowadays. Now, is that fair? That's a different conversation. But with Sam Darnold there, you have a situation where you can basically ease McCarthy in. And what I think the Vikings probably told Sam is they didn't hand him the quarterback job, but essentially it's hey, you've seen what Kevin O'Connell can do with quarterbacks over the last couple of years. Come sign with us. Sign a 1-year deal with us. You are most likely, even if we draft a rookie, going to be our starting quarterback going into week 1. We will give you the platform for a great audition for wherever you might be able to go next. It's a great offense. You get to throw to Justin Jefferson. You get to work with Kevin O'Connell, and we will give you that runway to be able to prove, okay, maybe I'm fighting for a starting spot or signing a potential starting quarterback job the next year. So Sam Darnold's got a lot to prove. So you're comfortable with putting him out there for at least a couple of weeks for J.J. McCarthy to get ready. And maybe it's half the season. Maybe it's 3/4 of the season. J.J. is the guy in the end. But I really love this spot specifically because it doesn't force a young, talented quarterback in McCarthy to get thrown to the wolves in the NFL before he's ready. He gets to work with a great quarterbacks coach, and it's a situation that, to me, is just very advantageous for his growth to not be stunted early on, which I feel like we've seen with quarterbacks. I'm not saying he'll wait as long as Jordan Love waited, but look at what happened with Love. Love waits a handful of years, he comes in and boom. It's not just the ability was there, the confidence was there from that guy. And that's what you never want to kill for a young quarterback. And I think that It's a situation where you can build that confidence. So I really like J.J. McCarthy ending up in Minnesota in some way, shape, or form.
You made so many good points there, like a lot of threads to pull. First, the confidence part with Jordan Love is so well taken, because not just that, like, he was prepared to play, but he was prepared to make mistakes, right? Like, there was a time to start this year where Jordan Love was making a lot. Like, there was the kind of, it's weird that his season was sort of like 3 chapters, right? Where the first few games, it's like, yeah, the EPA is really high, but the success rate is kind of low just because completion percentage is low. He's kind of living off big plays. And then there was like a chunk of the season when he started to make mistakes and the offense sort of floundered a little bit. And like, you can see Matt LaFleur, and it wasn't all on Jordan Love. Like, this was a very young offense, and you could see Matt LaFleur in press conferences. My respect really grew for Matt LaFleur with this, because he's like, I don't want to say that all my young guys are out there really screwing things up, but my young guys are out there really screwing things up right now. And I'm just trying to not like throw guys under the bus. So, But like, Jordan Love was prepared to make those mistakes and still have the confidence to then pretty much from like the Pittsburgh game on, I thought was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And like that is brought on by that confidence, because I'm not thrown to the wolves right away, and like, I am developed and I'm ready for this moment. Whereas as rookies, these guys, I mean, shoot, the one time we saw Jordan Love start a game when Aaron Rodgers missed because of COVID, he wasn't ready for that moment. So that's a great point about quarterback development. And but I want to put a pin in J.J. McCarthy for just a second and talk about your Sam Darnold point, because I am not a card-carrying internet sicko that's still in the Sam Darnold fan club. I don't know where you stand in terms of Darnold hive, but like, if you really take an objective look at things and don't just make Sam Darnold a punchline, there have been 2 times in his NFL career where he's been acceptable. I'll put it at acceptable. It was the start of his first year in Carolina before Christian McCaffrey got hurt. He actually had a good string of games to start that season. And then the end of his second season in Carolina, when they were running the ball really well with Steve Wilkes as the interim head coach. Donta Foreman was going off on a weekly basis, and he had one star receiver in DJ Moore and nobody else to throw to, but he was just like, yep, that's my guy. I'm going to just go to this guy over and over again, which he was also doing at the start of his first season. So when you can simplify the picture and like put a good situation around Sam Darnold, again, I'm not going to go as far as some of the internet sickos with Sam Darnold that he's still going to be a great player or anything. But I think he can, like, this is a good situation with the McCarthy part, because he actually, I think, can be good in this situation, which, I mean, Trevor, if you look around the league right now with in terms of teams with quarterback openings, for sure, how many of them are better set up to like be an incubator for a young quarterback? Not very many.
Right. And look, as you know, someone who owns 10 signed rookie Sam Darnold cards, I think he's going to be fantastic. No, I'm kidding. But
get him out the pod.
and that's I won't let you slander my future wealth for my family. No. Look, and that's kind of why I bring up the point. Like, you look at the Patriots. The Patriots bring in Jacoby Brissett for a 1-year deal. Like, I think that's like sort of a similar situation. But again, like, I like Minnesota's situation a lot more, right? You've got a somewhat talented offensive line, especially at the offensive tackle spots. You have Justin Jefferson, obviously. You have Kevin O'Connell. Like, it's sort of the same in the fact, like, okay, you've got like a bridge quarterback there, but it's a little bit different because, again, Jacoby Brissett might be in this mindset where he's like, okay, this might be my last time to be a starting quarterback. Like, I'm not just trying to like give my starting job to whoever they draft. Like, that's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to continue to play this game as long as I can. Whereas Darnold, and that's why like the context of this is different for me. Darnold, I think, is in a situation where they probably said to him when they signed him, look, we're most likely going to go get a quarterback, but we're still going to put you in a great situation as a live audition because we believe that you can be a starting quarterback in this league. So we want to put you in a good situation to be able to maximize that. So to me, it's like, it's like the health of the context of having a quarterback in there who could play right away. Like, I look at the Las Vegas Raiders, for example, right? Mm-hmm. The Raiders have Aiden O'Connell, who's like sort of this like fringe. I mean, he was their starter. They didn't really have any better options, but like sometimes Aiden O'Connell looked good, but he obviously wasn't somebody who was like, let's go all in on Aiden. And I like Aiden O'Connell for kind of what he is. But you bring in Gardner Minshew as well. Now it's almost as if Okay, well, imagine if the Raiders are that team that gets super aggressive, trades up to, number 4 and drafts McCarthy or Jaden Daniels. Like, how weird is that quarterback room? Sure, it's, I guess, competition, but there's even if you go, okay, Gardner, you're the veteran. It's, I don't know. Maybe I've never been in a quarterback locker room in the NFL, so maybe it's way different than I think. It's just not nearly as smooth of a transition when it comes to these guys being highly competitive and knowing there's only 32 of these starting jobs that exist in the world. I just feel as though the situation in Minnesota, though there is competition involved, though there's a little bit of this guy is paving the way for this guy, it feels about as clean as you can get with Darnold in Minnesota.
So we've established why this is a good situation for J.J. McCarthy, but let's talk about the player here a little bit, because I like how you said that it was a little bit of a journey to get to the destination of, like, all right, I can see the vision. From a tools and a traits perspective, because typically we talk about these developmental quarterbacks as like, yeah, he's not ready to start yet, but just wait till those like tools develop, right? From that sort of area with J.J. McCarthy, like where are you with him as a actual just individual prospect?
So I do like McCarthy. You could tell he's been playing the game a long time. He's got really good fundamentals. I think the fundamentals kind of maximize his arm strength. I think he's got a pretty good NFL arm. I really do. I still don't think it's as good as Caleb Williams or Drake Mays, but it's good enough to start at the NFL level. I do. I would take McCarthy's arm over Jaden's arm, and I think that we're in a situation where I feel as though, and I don't want to get down a rabbit hole here, but like Jaden Daniels' arm is kind of getting romanticized at this point. I think that people believe that it's better than it is when it comes to NFL standards. And I think it's because Daniels has, to me, the best fundamentals in the class. Like, it's such a repeatable throw, and he maximizes his arm strength every time, or his arm talent, I should say, is the correct word. But McCarthy, I actually think, has a little bit more arm talent. Like, if we're breaking up the top 4 quarterbacks, if you will, into like total arm talent, I think Caleb is 1, Drake May is 2, JJ is 3, and then Daniels is 4. Not that Daniels is bad, but that's just to give you context. I think that McCarthy's got a pretty dang good arm. I really do. And you see that, especially when he's throwing over like the intermediate. And when you come to kind of like breaking down his traits and what he is as a quarterback, I do love his mentality right now and how he's been coached, because very clearly he understands, and this is not always the case, even with some of the top quarterbacks in draft classes. He understands that you've really got to take some risky throws and you got to be able to rip it to succeed in this league. There's 2 categories that I always love to, put quarterbacks in to kind of evaluate what they're able to do. And those 2 of those categories happen to be middle of the field between the numbers, intermediate between 10 and 20 yards down the field. Okay. If you are in the middle of the field, 10 to 20 yards down the field between the numbers, you have to be able to attack this part of a defense if you are an NFL quarterback. And there are so many offenses in college football that it feels like don't want to do it. They don't want their guys to have to go through progressions over the middle because they don't want them to be late, because if you're late over the middle, guess what happens? A strong safety or a linebacker or somebody's probably picking it off. So that's a very dangerous area if you don't see the field very, very well. And so a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of offensive coordinators, they just don't want you to do it. Find the one-on-one matchups outside. We'll set up the offense to where these guys are one-on-one. You find them. You put the ball where it needs to go. Our guy will go up and get it on a one-on-one. Fine in college, works in college. And there's plenty of times when you want to do that in the NFL. But you also, in order for NFL defenses to really not like lock in on some of those options, you've got to be able to stretch them and make them defend every single blade of grass. That includes throwing over the middle. J.J. McCarthy was very, very, I will say, fearless. It felt like throwing over the middle. Sometimes it kind of bit him a little bit, but like you've got to be able to do that. You talked about the taking those risks before. The other area that I like to put quarterbacks in is 3rd and long, right? 3rd and 7 plus. What are you doing? 3rd and 6 plus, 3rd and 7 plus. What are you doing? Because you're not running the football. You're obviously passing. It's obvious passing situations. JJ, the 2 highest graded quarterbacks that we had in our system in that situation over the last year was McCarthy and Bo Nix. And they were Bo Nix had a better passing grade. He had more first downs. He had better completions. But we also have the statistics where it shows, okay, how often did you throw short of the sticks in those situations versus how many times did you actually push the ball past the first down marker? And Nix, I don't want to take this, I don't want to make this like because we'll talk about Bo Nix in a little bit.
Sure.
It's not really a detractor to him. He's kind of like doing what he was supposed to do. But often when he was converting on third down, he was throwing it short of the sticks and he was letting his playmakers just make plays after the catch, which is fine. They were right decisions. I don't want to hold that against him. But McCarthy, I think a little bit over 60% of the time, he's pushing the ball past the first down marker. He's saying, I'm gonna get this first down myself. I'm gonna put it where I need to, and I'm gonna let the receiver go and catch it in sort of, again, a fearless mentality. And so those things of when people talk about how he processes things, sometimes that's a very vague term that you kind of roll your eyes about and you're like, okay, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. That genuinely is when I can look at those two categories, and if you perform well in those categories, I can kind of say, okay, you've got almost exactly what you said about Jordan Love. You're not really afraid to fail. You understand what you have to do to succeed at this level. And you also understand that it's not going to go your way every time, but that doesn't mean you can't go back to it when you need to. So that is something that I really like about it. He's got a pretty decent arm strength. I think he's got good mobility to him. He's slender. I need him to get bigger, but if he gets bigger and stronger, that only helps out the arm strength a little bit more. So I'm hoping that happens for him. Like how he processes the game. I like those intangibles. I like the way that he took a big step forward when it comes to his pocket presence and feeling pressure and knowing when to get to what receiver and all that kinds of stuff. So I do really like McCarthy as a buildable prospect. Top 5 pick. It kind of is what it is.
Quarterback tax, baby. You got to pay it.
I was gonna say there's teams that have quarterbacks and there's teams that don't. And if you're in the camp of the ones that don't, you're gonna draft one really high. So I gave him a late first, early second round grade based on just what I saw from him in 2023, knowing that he's got the potential to be even more than that.
That makes so much sense to me, like that kind of grade. And you mentioned like processing can kind of be something that we roll our eyes at times. I think the idea of that's a pro style quarterback. Sometimes I think that jumps the shark a little bit. When you watch J.J. McCarthy, that is an NFL quarterback. Like he's doing NFL quarterback stuff. Like you said, the more I watch, like is really funny. This usually my off-season process is pretty like, this is the time I'm doing college stuff. But before or like in the middle of doing prospect stuff, right, the Stephon Diggs trade happens. I'm like, all right, well, I gotta go back and like chart him out for, reception perception, like put him through the whole process. And it's just so stark when you go from watching, A.D. Mitchell in the Texas offense and then like Stephon Diggs or in the NFL offense. You're like, my God, these are just so two different games. Okay. It's just almost two completely different sports, which is stupid because it's football, but still some of the offenses, like you said, the way they're set up, it's just so different. But with McCarthy, you see him attack that middle of the field area. Like you mentioned, that's something that it's really grown on me, like throughout watching him. And especially watching Roman Wilson, it's like, he makes some plays over the middle of the field, and those are not always Roman Wilson plays. I think a lot of them are J.J. McCarthy plays. So
right, I agree.
It's definitely been a journey with J.J. McCarthy, but I can see the vision where teams are with him at this point. So that was really well said. I love that breakdown by you on J.J. McCarthy.